Welcome back to Just Giants with Grump and the Cranky Fan, your favorite Giants podcast. I am your host, the Football Grump. With me, as always, is Mike, the Cranky Fan, and we are back following another Giants loss, following our family Christmas party, which is a tradition like no other. The Giants fell to the Vikings 16-13 in a game that was surprisingly somewhat exciting in terms of, I guess, just the game itself was always kind of close score-wise, but it was a brutal game to watch. How you doing,
Yeah,
Mike?
you have quite a definition of the word exciting.
Well, I mean, any any
Yeah,
any football game that is one play away from changing winner and loser, and also had a possible pick six and a sack fumble return for a touchdown. Those are exciting plays. The same way a barn burner is exciting.
yeah, I'd say it was close more than exciting, but that's okay. I mean, the most exciting thing is, since you've moved away, that we have had back-to-back weeks of watching games together.
That's
That's
true.
kind of the highlight.
We were
Yeah,
much
uh,
warmer for this one.
much warmer. Shout out to our family for the annual Christmas party, where, like you said, a tradition like no other is the family gathered around to watch, the Jets and the Giants lose, because they always seem to schedule them both playing at 1 o'clock when we have our family Christmas party, and they both find ways to lose.
Yeah.
So
The
the
Jets
whole
the
family
Jets
is
got
thankful.
handed. Like I did
Oh,
last
they're
I
bad.
looked at that score, it was like 29-6.
Oh yeah. That's a whole nother mess for a whole nother day.
That's
But
not exciting.
no, that is not exciting. Yeah, we are playing out the string with backup coaches, and it kind of shows. We're also living through a rookie quarterback who's going to have his ups and downs. We have a coaching staff for some reason, and we're going to get into it. From my opinions, that we have 4 or 5 weeks left in this season, and this is the time to utilize the learning of Jaxson Dart. And for some reason, he threw the ball 6 times in the first half and threw
Well,
it.
let's talk about this
Yeah.
because
Yes.
this was the most frustrating part about this game is um not only was Jackson Dart bad in this game when he was asked to do things, he wasn't really asked to do much of anything. And you know, I don't really know what goes on in film rooms and in preparation, but it definitely felt like we need to protect him from this really complicated defense that Brian Flores runs. And I would agree with that if this team had a winning record and were jockeying for some wild card spot. But since they're not, I would rather let this be a test for him. Like, if he starts getting knocked around out there where you see like the protections aren't getting set, he's getting clobbered, this isn't good for him, then you can alter your game plan at that point. But to go into this game with what felt like a design of, you know, running the ball 2 times as many times as you are going to pass it, uh, feels like you're just protecting Jackson Dart from his own progress, from
Right.
failure.
Right. And we're talking about the 2025 Vikings. We're not talking about the 85 Bears. It's a good defense, but it's also a team that has 8 losses. So it's not all time great. And you're 100% right. If this season is meaningless at this point, if this team is 2-12 going into play Minnesota at home, let's not just waste the final 3, 4 games. Let's get your franchise quarterback reps. If he throws 3 picks, so be it. No one cares. I don't believe in you're going to shatter his confidence or something. You have to treat the rest of the season like it means something. And that meaning something for the Giants means one thing right now, because this coaching staff is not going to be back next year. You're going to see a lot of roster turnover from this team. The thing you're hanging your hat on, the thing you're building more than anything else on this roster is Jaxson Dart. And Jaxson Dart in this past offseason was not prepared to be the starting quarterback. This is Jaxson Dart did not start the first couple of games. He missed a few games because of concussion. Reps are a premium. And I'm not saying go out there and throw 50 times against a good defense in tough conditions in December in the Meadowlands,
No, but
but
run your offense.
don't bubble wrap the guy. And that's kind of what I felt like it was what we're doing. And it's just the whole thing is really frustrating to me. I don't care about the score. I don't care about yards and stuff. It's once again my frustration with this team that what are we doing fundamentally? What is our philosophy right now? Brian Dable, who probably should have been fired last year, was kept for one main reason, and that was to help pick and then, more importantly, um, develop a quarterback. And that lasted 7 games, 8 games, because this ownership can't handle criticism from the fans and the media that they were losing an outcome for this season, which was most probable anyway. So you have taken the one thing that you really needed was the development of Jaxson Dart, and you've stunted a little bit. You don't have the guy who was the quarterback whisperer doing that. You now have, the offensive coordinator who now all of a sudden has to be the head coach. So attention's taken away from time developing your quarterback. And now we're just kind of putting him in shrink wrap and bubble wrap. And we're wasting time the rest of this year when it is a wasted season. We're not squeezing any orange juice out of this orange right now.
Absolutely. So a couple of things. It's frustrating to me because I I think that Brian Dable got fired not because they were losing necessarily. It's that they were losing and the same things with Brian Dable were coming up. Like, it's pretty clear at this point that he has not really hired a solitary good coach. I mean, the closest thing he's done is hire a few good assistants. With like Andre Patterson is kind of a pretty good assistant. Carmen Bursillo has been a pretty good assistant. But as far as the important jobs of coordinators go, he has not done a good job. His inability to control his emotions on the sideline have been an issue for years. That has not changed either. And then, just wonky roster stuff, game day stuff, some stuff that feels like the blame could be shared between him and Joe Shane, or, it's a little unclear. But I don't think it's just the losing. I think the losing is what you lose patience with the fastest. But I do think that he was kept on for the sole purpose of selecting, and developing a quarterback. And it feels like once they felt like, they being everyone above Brian Dable, because I'm not really sure who to blame. But once they felt like he had successfully found and selected the quarterback, they were no longer going to deal with his antics, which, and again, like, deservedly so. Like, I do believe Brian Dable should have been fired. There are things that he just simply never got better at that will prevent him from ever being a good head coach. Just the way I see it. But I do feel like they pulled the trigger on that very early because they're just banking on, well, Jaxson Dart's good. And it's like, it's a small sample size. I like Jaxson Dart. I want Jaxson Dart to be good. I saw the bigger picture with Jaxson Dart. I predicted that Jaxson Dart could be a New York Giant before the draft happened. I
see the potential.
I understand all that, but I also am not losing my mind, even though he has exceeded my rookie season expectations in a lot of ways. It is still a rookie season. There is plenty of time for him to bust out, and that's just a fact. So to pull the trigger on it like that, and maybe I have all of this wrong, right? But I think that it's kind of right.
I all of those things you said for reasons to fire him, I 100% agree. And none of that's going to change if he would have stayed the rest of the season, and the team's record probably would have been the same. I don't care about the record anymore. But to me, if you pretty much assumed he's not coming back anyway, the one major asset he has, which I think is even more important than selecting the quarterback, is developing the quarterback. And they had a relationship where, we talked about it on this show. You talked about it with Bobby on the other show. Everybody, like, Brian Dable was personally involved in the development of Jaxson Dart. Always was talking to him on the sideline. Always was working with him in practice. Standing, we saw it during training camp. He was always next to him, a lot more than head coaches normally are with quarterbacks. And if all that other stuff is 100% true, but something, you live with it for another 6 weeks, and then you whack the guy, and at least you give Jaxson Dart another 6-7 weeks of development, because that development time in the beginning of your career is exponentially important from week to week. If it's his third or fourth year, that's different. But right now, it is the growing time. It's the time he's learning the most. He's taking those quantum leaps from game 1 to 2 to 2 to 3 to 6 to 7. I just think unless you have a locker room mutiny, which we didn't hear about, I think it was just a massive mistake.
I kind of agree. I am not really super big on the firing guys before the end of the season thing. Like I
I
really
hate
just
it. I hate it.
I think that there are instances where it's warranted. When there's a guy that's being toxic or detrimental to everything that you're trying to build and whatever, right? But I like most of the time, if you're considering firing your head coach, your shit's lost for the year. So if you're accepting that things are lost for the year, then just fucking accept it. Accept it all the way. Don't half accept it. And whatever. Like you said, I totally agree. I don't think that they had any issues with Brian Dable's work with Jaxson Dart. I think they had issues with his issues on the sideline, his inability to hire coaches or care about the other aspects of the game. Most importantly, not a leader in the locker room, not holding guys accountable, not letting other players be leaders, like just totally undisciplined locker room, right? Those were things that were always going to be a problem with him, but does it matter? I mean, like, I think it's at least arguable that it doesn't really matter by the time they fired him. Like, things were not going to really change. I mean, the biggest argument, the biggest argument for it is the locker room thing, right? Like, I don't think it was a full-blown mutiny, but you had guys who just simply were not being punished whatsoever. And it's been going on for years. So if you can stomach it for a couple of, like, just stomach it for the rest of the year is sort of where I'm, like, landing with this. I don't know.
But you have to weigh both sides of the scale, and the stomaching it has to have a payoff for why you're stomaching it. And to me, that tutelage, that personal attention that Dart was getting, maybe you give him even more attention because the season's lost, and fuck it. Maybe that's the directive. Like, okay, we're 2-11. We only have 4 games left. We're going to fire you at the end of the year. Coaches have been told that before. You're not coming back, but your job is priority 1, 2, and 3. Work with Jaxson Dart. Get him as ready as you can going forward.
I don't even know that you need to tell him. Just tell him to keep doing what he's doing every week and then just fire him at the end of the year. I don't know. Maybe that's like heartless of me. I don't know, but
So I think when coaches are making millions of dollars and players are making millions of dollars, I don't believe in heartless.
That's a good point.
Pro football and now college football is a business. It's a game. It's adults playing a kid's game, but first and foremost, it is a cutthroat business. For every one of the 32 head coaches, there are 4,000 guys who would take that job in half a second and would do whatever they can to get those jobs. So the heartless, tough shit. That's life.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah, you're right. And I don't really care either. But, yeah, so I think that and I do think that, like, the losing is what pressures ownership or whatever to make these things happen mid-season to appease a loud group, right? So, number one, this group of fans wouldn't be so loud if it weren't so bad for so long. So, A, that's a little bit your fault anyway. And B, who cares? You're a billionaire. You own this team. Season tickets are bought and paid for. Like, you shouldn't be... If I know John Mara cares about this team and he wants them to be good, then you shouldn't be worried with the minutia. Like, you are as big picture as it gets, man. You own the team, so do what's right. Difference. You don't have to worry about the year to year. If you want the team to be consistently good, then take it slow and build it right, just like you're building a house. Build the whole foundation.
There's a big difference between caring about your team and caring what people think about your team. Because if Grump, if you cared about every person who gave us a negative comment or said you're terrible or
I'd have no hair.
Suck. I'd have no hair. But something, if you're dedicated to your craft, you're dedicated to doing two really good shows, to learning, to becoming better, you're just not going to care what, your detractors are going to say. And most of those detractors are just 12-year-old trolls. And a lot of people who bitch and moan, like who call the fan, are, just girlless trolls who have nothing better to do with their time.
Yeah, that's what I'm
So,
saying, man. Like
yeah,
I know like the one plane banner or whatever was purchased by a 16-year-old. Like, are you really gonna let a 16-year-old bully you into doing things? Like, fuck it. Like, he's a 16-year-old. He doesn't know anything, man. Like,
right.
I'm not saying he can't be mad or upset with the team or whatever. What I'm saying is that he has only probably known losing seasons for the most of his life. So
Mhm.
he has no perspective, is what I'm saying. He doesn't
Of
know that
course.
like for like 28 teams they go through things like this. He just
Hey,
lived
listen,
through the Patriots and the Chiefs, and so he thinks every team should be like that or
yeah,
whatever.
and even fans like of my age who've lived through four Super Bowls victories and have seen five Super Bowl appearances, that this is very frustrating. And the thing is, it really sucks for fans like us and the 16-year-old fan, is that we are helpless. We don't have any power or authority to change anything. We're fans. We observe, we watch, we are spectators. We can't go and make a draft pick for the team. We can't make a trade. We can't run extra laps with the receivers to make them faster. So there's this sense of helplessness that we have as fans, and that's what frustrates them. But let's remember our lot in life. We are fans. That's all we can be. We're not owners. We're not general managers. We're not coaches. We're not position coaches. We're not players. We're not the guy who runs to get the tee after the kickoff. So that's a little bit of human nature, I think. But getting back
Well,
to Mara, it's you have to forget even like what the fans think. I think they get more bent by what the media thinks of them.
I think it doesn't matter, if it's one or the other. My point is just just like have a business
Well,
plan. You know what I mean? Like have a
I,
business plan, have some conviction in it, and just do it. Don't worry about the early returns. Don't
and
worry
have a
about
thick
what
skin about it.
everybody else thinks. They're not in on the planning. They don't know the planning, and you can't announce your plans to the world because then you're unzipping your fly for all the 31 other teams against you. So don't worry about them. But like that's the thing, is that they are always worrying about the outside perception, and it looks like you have no confidence because then you're doing completely different things, and it shows too. Like the moment they have anything that looks like success, they jump all over it. Like
Mhm.
they're just waiting for something to go right so that they can just be like, oh, finally, yes, this, just give me tons of this. Put it all over the screens, make a big poster of it, put it outside the stadium. Like, it, it's
Oh yeah.
so desperate and just dripping with insecurities. And I think that's what really gets with the fans, right? Like, I think even a lukewarm, good strategy, if you stick to it, you at least get medium returns on, right? Like,
Well, the thing about a strategy is you have to have the thick skin from compliments and criticism.
right.
Because then the second you start losing that thick skin, you start making decisions contrary to what the objective and the goal is and your plan. Your plan may be doing something this A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, but as soon as you catch criticism or something doesn't appear to go, thick skin doesn't necessarily mean just what people say about you. It's results that aren't the outcome that you want immediately. You
Sure.
have to be thick skinned to what happens on the field.
Bringing this back to the Vikings game, I don't
Mhm.
think that this was a thick skinned maneuver, having Jaxson Dart pretty much protected from Brian Flores' defense rather than letting a Brian Flores defense test him. I understand that reading post snap is one of those things that he definitely need to get better on, that this is a whole other level of that, but like, I don't know. There's nothing on the line here. Like
Yeah.
next year, this game against the Brian Flores defense could be a wild card game. And he may be pulling from experiences in this game for that moment literally next year. It's a completely plausible scenario. As I'm playing with scissors, I don't know why I'm playing with these. Um,
He could be the next Drake May for all we know, where they had an 11-loss season and he played and played, and look at him now.
yeah,
Might be a potential one seed.
yeah. So I don't agree with. the general game plan. Now, on the flip side, Mike Kafka did say, and I can sort of sympathize with this, is the running game was just working. And I will agree with that. I don't think that while I believe that's true, and I believe that 8 into pass attempts, I still believe that there was a game plan decision to not have Jaxson Dart fully exposed to the Brian Flores defense. But at the same time, this is the first time that they've had what I would call a good running game, which was over 100 yards on the ground, split between Singletary and Tracy. They were both averaging 4.5 yards per carry, 4.4 for Tracy, 4.3 for Singletary. And Jaxson Dart had almost no factor in the running game.
Yeah.
Every other time that we've seen the Giants have a good game running the football, you look at the stats and whatever, and then you realize that Jaxson Dart's scrambling and or zone read runs account
at
for
55 yards.
Exactly, yeah. Or even Cam Scadaboo. I mean, like, they had a 128-yard rushing game without Cam Scadaboo either, and without Andrew Thomas for half the game, without John Runyon for the entire game, without John Michael Schmitz for half the game. So you had 3 backups, all 3 of which are I don't feel super comfortable about having to play. Like Austin Schlottman, I think at center, we've seen enough this year covering for John Michael Schmitz that we can get by in a game. But Aaron Stinney and Marcus Bowe playing left tackle, not super comfortable with that. Aaron Stinney playing guard, not really super comfortable with that. And yet they didn't look too bad. So I can understand and appreciate being like, if the play is working, why would I stop calling the play? I'm a big proponent of that too. Like, if they're not, like, I'll run slants all day if you're going to give me slants. So too bad.
Well, I mean, the running game was effective and it was decent, but it wasn't like they can't stop us.
It wasn't Jahmyr Gibbs against us.
You still can't be one-dimensional like that. And I understand if we're down 3 starting offensive linemen, maybe you want to keep, Jaxson Dart from being in harm's way, but that seemed to be the game plan at the opening snap, where all we had was Runyon not playing. That wasn't a decision that was made. That's the way we were going to play it.
I completely agree.
And what would have happened, let's say on that first drive, if Tracy doesn't pop up those 2 big runs, or it's a 3 and out or something, then what were we going to do? I mean, the game plan, let's say we couldn't run at all. I mean, we would have had probably 9 yards of time possession in this game. It would have been 12 punts and probably get our asses kicked.
Yeah, even if like for you to have 33 passing yards as an offense, you better have like 250 yards on the ground.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. The running game was nice, but
it was a good running game. That's it. Good. It was not great.
Yeah.
It was not memorable. There wasn't even one run that you were like, oh yeah, you remember that one? Wow, I'll remember. Like, there was nothing about it that was fantastic. But I'm not going to take anything away from it. That is, if that's your running game every single week against every single opponent, then you have a good running game. So
you better have 250 passing yards to go along with it.
Well,
if you want to win in this,
sure,
game.
Yes, agreed. Factoring into that a little bit, I think, is Tyrone Tracy. It was a little murky what his role on the team was. It got really weird because he started the year last year as the second back in the rotation, possibly even third with like Eric Gray in the mix. We weren't really sure about a 5th round pick.
Sure.
By the end of the year, he was the lead back, and it wasn't even close. Devin Singletary was RB2, and it was, no discussion. We go into this year, he starts off as running back 1, then gets a shoulder injury, I think week 2.
Yep.
And then, Cam Scadaboo comes into the mix, and then Cam Scadaboo gets hurt, and then Cam Scadaboo's out, but Tyrone Tracy's still not lead back. And it got kind of weird. It was a couple games like that. I had suspected that it might just be the shoulder, because I think he suffered like a separated shoulder or a dislocated shoulder. As a running back, like, that's just, you come back from that, that's getting hit every single play is your shoulder. So I thought maybe they were kind of like easing him into it. And I think I might be right, because he looked like the lead back in this game. This is 2 weeks in a row I thought Tyrone Tracy had a good game.
And also, they may have eased him back a little more based upon what the record of this team was. Again, if we're fighting for a wild card spot, if we're fighting for the division, they may have accelerated that return to him. But if we're 2-8, you know, let's get him healthy so he can play again. I think Tyrone Tracy, like quite a bit of guys on this roster, are the sum of the parts is better than the parts themselves. Like when we have Scattaboo and we have Tyrone Tracy and we have a Jaxson Dart who's allowed to do his thing, I think I think all three of those appear better than they are if it's just okay, Tyrone Tracy, you're the feature back, you're gonna have to carry the ball 23 times. Or even a Scattaboo where, I, I'm not exactly sure what his ideal number would be for rushes per game, but I don't think it's 35. I don't think it's 4, but I don't. I think having a complementary running back with him to take a little bit of the load off, as well as a running quarterback like Dart, I think makes all of these guys better. So, you know, looking to next year when Scattaboo is back, Dart is doing what he should do. I'm excited to have a guy like a healthy Tracy as part of that mix.
One thing that I really like that they're doing too is they're getting really creative with the backfield. And I've been screaming for this for like a long time. I never understood why teams didn't do more of this, but like they'll be in these weird formations where like they'll have two running backs and a tight end back there with Jaxson Dart.
Mhm.
And, I mean, it just, I think it's just confusing to look at and confusing to expect anything because like in any one of those four guys could be getting a handoff or running with the
Mhm.
ball in that play, and you've got blockers all over the place and shifting motion. Three of those guys could catch passes out of that
Mhm.
between Devin Singletary or Cam Scattaboo or Tyrone Tracy, whichever the two running backs are, or Daniel Bellinger or Theo Johnson, like whoever the tight
It,
end is in
it
that scenario, like it just presents a multitude of possibilities. And I think that that's wise that they've been doing more and more of that. I think it's worked to pretty good effect too. I'm pretty sure not the Vikings game the week before when we went to it. Who was that game? Washington.
Washington.
I think the Tyrone Tracy rushing touchdown had a funky formation to it, if I'm remembering
Mhm.
right.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
so I think that that stuff helps, and I think that it lends itself to
Y-
exactly what you're saying, with like the sum of the parts being more than the parts
I,
themselves, more valuable than the parts
I
themselves.
I also think part of that's predicated on having more confidence in your offensive line too.
Oh yeah,
If you can trust that offensive line that they're going to do their thing, you can get a little more exotic and creative with your position guys lined up in unique ways. If you're so worried about having mass protection all the time, you can't get funky. And I think this offensive line has played well enough this year that you can do some of the things. Now, who knows what's going to happen the rest of this season if JMS is out for a while. I mean, Runyon should be back.
yes.
Congrats to him. But they may just shut Andrew Thomas down for the rest of the year as a precaution. Then all of a sudden, now we have to start worrying about these things because now we don't want Jaxson Dart to get killed. So it'll be interesting to see what if we see this little trend continue with a semi patchwork offensive line.
Another thing I want to talk about on the offense. So this was an ugly game, and we'll get into all the specifics of the ugly game. Um, Offensively, this was disgusting. It was Jaxson Dart's worst game. Um, I mean, like there were exciting moments in this game, but I think at no point while the Giants had the ball was anything exciting. It was just kind of a mess. That being said, with like 3 minutes left in the game, the Giants had the ball with a chance to score because this game ended 16-13. As bad as this game was offensively, and it is pathetic. Like 33 yards passing is just absolute garbage. And like I said, like the offset being only
We're
128 yards on the ground is not really like, oh well, that's why. Like there's
I
no
mean,
reason. It
we're
was
back
bad.
in we're back in the we're back in the Mike Glennon days, kind of. When
Yeah.
you're seeing these numbers at halftime, we have -2 passing yards, or but back then you're dealing with a real patchwork offensive line and guys that are borderline shouldn't even be in the NFL.
So,
Um,
but here's what stinks: the Giants were never driving on that drive because a perfectly good pass attempt over the middle to Darius Slayton was dropped. That would have put them somewhere around the 45-yard line for Minnesota with a 1st and 10. The way Ben Sauls was kicking that day, it looked like everything was pretty good. You're looking at like 15 more yards, and you've got a tie game, probably. At least you put yourself in position where a new kicker could tie the game for you. And it was dropped. And I think that's part of the larger thing where Darius Slayton has had a terrible, terrible year. It's by far been his worst year, and it's coming off of getting a contract that was comparable. It was like market value for the statistics that he put up.
The guy's just not a number 1 receiver or a big play.
He doesn't
receiver.
even look like a number 3 receiver this year. He's not catching anything.
And he had 1 catch for 8 yards. He had 2 targets today, which again, I'm going to excuse Slayton for that because of the complete lack of interest in attempting to having a passing game.
The 1 catch he did have was on 4th down also.
Okay. But this is not a 1 game problem for Darius Slayton. I've been bitching about him for years. I've been out on him for a very, very long time. But, again, some of the parts when he is behind Neighbors and Wan'Dale's doing his thing and he's like your 2/3 receiver, he's fine. He just gets the apple whenever he's relied on to make a big play at a big time. And he's not a rookie or a second-year guy who's going to lose those yips. I mean, that is his calling card at this point.
And it does feel like yips too, because it's not the difficulty of the catch, but it is always the moment. You know what I mean? Like, it's always the moment. So it's really, really frustrating. It's sad to see. I do want to say this, though. I'm not going to defend Darius Slayton's year or anything like that. But this idea, like, if you don't want to re-sign Wan'Dale Robinson because he's 5'9", fine. If you don't want to re-sign Wan'Dale Robinson because he's slot only, fine. If you don't want to re-sign Wan'Dale Robinson because he has short arms, also fine. If you don't want to re-sign him because you don't like his face, that's all fine. But
we'd be cut.
yeah. But I mean, like, if you are interested in his skill set and you're like, man, I really wish we could keep him, but we just paid Darius Slayton all that money, that is not a valid reason. And I can prove it by just looking at Darius Slayton's contract right now. It's a 3-year deal with a 2-year dead out. So if he's bad again next year, you can just walk away from him and save $10 million. You're still paying him 3, but you're saving 10. Instead of 13, you're paying him 3 to not be on your roster. That's not a bad deal. That deal is also, like, people pay so much attention to the AAV, just the average payout. The average doesn't impact the cap equally. Like, it's not spread equally across the years. And you saw it with Darius Slayton's contract this year. The cap hit was low in the first year of the contract, and it's higher in the second year. You can re-sign Wan'Dale with the same principle, and then as soon as Wan'Dale's contract kicks in against the cap, cut Darius Slayton, save $10 million, move on from him anyway. Because in my opinion, you need to bring in 2 receivers, period. Whether that's keeping Wan'Dale Robinson and drafting one, fine. If it's signing 2 of them, fine, and letting Wan'Dale walk. If it's drafting 2 of them and letting Wan'Dale walk, all of these things are fine, but you need 2 more receivers. Wan'Dale, in my opinion, I think Wan'Dale is a good receiver. I don't know what his price is going to be, but I think that he gets more valuable, more in an offense that performs better. I think people disagree with me because he gets a lot of targets when Malik Neighbors is gone, or if the offense can't block and they have to throw everything near the line of scrimmage. I think his targets go up, but I don't think his ability changes. I think if he's in the open field and he can get targeted, he is consistent in making people miss. And I think that yak is always going to be a thing for him. I think that he'll be just as valuable. Maybe he'll have less statistics because he's getting targeted less, but his value to the offense will be the same or better in a offense that functions better. So I would re-sign him. But
Grump, until Malik Neighbors can prove he can stay healthy all the time, until we can prove we have a really good offensive line, those are 2 reasons to keep Wan'Dale Robinson, because odds are, Neighbors is going to miss a game or 2, or something's going to happen to him. And the odds are, we are we are one left tackle away from this offensive line not being good, where you don't have time to throw. So that alone is enough for me to say I kind of want this guy back because he is that Swiss Army knife that can do a lot of things for you. And I think going back to your point before about, well, just because this happened, I'm not going to do this again. I think that's a fan's mindset. I think general
Usually, yeah.
managers, I think teams and general managers are like what they always say with cornerbacks. Like they have the memory of a mosquito. Like, okay, they got burnt on that play. They forgot it. They're on to the next one. I think that's how general managers generally act. If transaction A didn't work, that's not going to impact my decision making for transaction B because that transaction B has got nothing to do with the player, the situation of A. So
Well, I mean,
you
I'm not
you
really
can't be
speaking
scared.
to Joe Shane or whoever the future GM is. But I'm just saying, if the Giants do retain Wan'Dale Robinson, if you're listening to this and your first reaction is like, "Oh my God, the mismanagement and the money. Where's all the money coming from?" Like, there are ways to do this where this does not hurt your cap situation like at all. Um,
Yeah,
so
he's an
whether it's
asset.
Joe Shane or not, whoever this GM is that comes in, just remember, like, this is not like a mismanagement way of handling your money. If you don't, again, and I'll back onto this, if you don't like Wandale and that's why you don't want to resign him, then that's a totally different conversation. I would disagree with you, but I can understand all those reasons. They're perfectly valid to say, like, I don't want to spend all of that on a slot only receiver or a guy with really short arms that makes a smaller window for Jaxson Dart, or a guy
Well,
who's only
guess what?
5'9". Like, they're all good reasons to not want to keep him. That's fine.
Well, guess what? Some other team is going to value that guy, and he's going to get paid. So it's not
That's
like
true. Yeah.
it's not like if the Giants, my opinion is, if they resign him, they're not overspending for him. They're going to spend what pretty much his value is out there.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah.
On defense, did we get to see back-to-back good games from Abdul Carter? Finally.
Mm-hmm.
It's about time. Now, I'm going to play a little bit of cynicism here.
Ah, fun.
Okay. So, offensive line was really hurt for Minnesota, like all over the
Mm-hmm.
place. So, all year I've been saying that, though. So, like, to play both sides of devil's advocate, like, I'm rewarding a number 3 overall pick for beating up on a backup offensive lineman. Like, that's me, whatever. But it was a good game all around. The whole game, I thought he played a very good game. Pressures, quarterback hits, tackles for loss, looked like a very complete game from him. Sacks. So, and then the other side of that is that they've played plenty of offensive lines this year that have been hurt and they weren't able to produce and weren't able to get. Abdul Carter has been producing all year, but not really getting statistics. So I guess it kind of doesn't matter that it was, backups or whatever, a hurt offensive line that he capitalized on.
It's funny because as you were mentioning that, I was trying to look up the stats where Brian Burns did against the Chargers
Mm-hmm.
because that was the game. Remember, did they have like both tackles out, and they had a ton of injuries
It
in
was
the
the
offensive line.
first week without. No, they lost Slater early on, and then I think they lost Joe Alt like in the beginning of that game.
Right, right. So, was that a game where Brian Burns says, how many sacks did he have this year? 16, 17. He's got a ton.
Mm-hmm.
Did he feast that day? Well, if he did, nobody's saying, well, it's because the offensive line was all banged up and he didn't get it.
That's true. Yeah.
So if you're looking for reasons to complain, you're going to say that about Abdul Carter. If you're like, oh, I love this guy, you're going to kind of forget that factor. The bottom line is, he's a rookie. He's getting used to this league. It's not as easy of a jump as people think it is. Like all of a sudden, I mean, there are exceptions to guys who come in immediately and get 14, 15 sacks, but a lot of guys, they got to get used to this league. And it's before you dominate, you have to be able to dominate against lesser opponents. And this is one of those little markers like, okay, and it's not just this week, it was last week too. We're starting to see trends in the right direction. So if you don't like Abdul Carter because of being late and all that stuff and the narrative about him, you're going to find reasons to be, discredit what he did.
Brian Burns only had 1 sack in that game.
Okay. Well, he's not a sack.
No, yeah, I mean, but you were making a
Right.
valid point.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's going to be games like that. Like you're going to play against beat up offensive lines from time to time. Do you capitalize on it?
Hmm.
Like,
That's the league.
yeah. It's a knock against you if you can't, but if you do, it's not a knock against you. It just
Right.
that's
Right.
what you were given to play against. This isn't
Hmm.
the college football playoff when you don't play
This,
in a conference.
this is the league. Yeah.
Um, but it was good to see another solid game from Abdul Carter where he's wrecking shit left and right. Now, of course, he is also going against two quarterbacks that, in J.J. McCarthy and Max Brosmer, that are people I would expect to be skittish with pressure in their face. But
Well, at least he got the pressure in their face.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, another good game from both Brian Burns and Abdul Carter. It's a shame because the one mark on Abdul Carter's day would be erasing a pick six from Javon Holland. It was a great defensive play. The offsides penalty that's called on Abdul Carter had no effect on the play whatsoever because he was lined up in the neutral zone and he had no effect on the throw. I mean, he was really just kind of bouncing to the outside, never really got much of a pass rush at all. Quick throw bounced off the hands and landed right in Holland's hands. So, and it really sucks because if you watch the play live, it really doesn't look like he's offsides, and we never got a down the sidelines replay of the play. We only got one replay of the line of scrimmage, and it was from an angle that was like kind of behind Abdul Carter. So like you just didn't get a down the line view. I mean, at most, it's like his hand was lined up on the ball, which really sucks.
Grump, I don't want to toot my own horn here, and I did not. I told this to Cranky wife, but not you, that I almost guaranteed that Philip Rivers would throw a pick six, and he just threw a pick six.
It's about time.
Because not to go on a tangent, but the filleting of Philip Rivers by Buck and Aikman tonight has been very nauseating. I mean, I haven't seen this much blowing since Deep Throat. It's been that bad.
I don't think anyone knows what you're talking about when you say that.
Oh, that's all right. Go look it up, but make sure you're not at work when you do.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, I'm trying to. We were just at the end of Paulson Adebo got an interception in this game. Kind of a wacky one that just bounced into his hands, but can't take anything away from him because it required a lot of concentration to get the feet in bounds and hold on to the ball.
This was not a loss because of the defense. This was just a loss of just two teams not, backup quarterback playing against a neutered quarterback and guys hurt and things. We just lost. So, if you want to take anything away from this game as well, that even with a backup quarterback and these different things, the defense played pretty well, made plays. You say a pick six. It's unfortunate it got called back, but how many interceptions does this team have this year? And how many big plays by position guys on this defense have happened this year? So,
and you had a sack fumble in this game, which it was entirely J.J. McCarthy's fault. Like just totally didn't see it coming, and he got hurt on the play. So I mean, he really the more I'm thinking about it, that's like a huge play. Like it was like the end of the quarter. You were losing your mind because you're like, you just like run out the clock here, and so. First down after the kickoff, they run the ball and it goes for 8 yards. Second play, they decide they're going to drop back with like 20 seconds left in the half.
Yeah.
They're not accounting for a free rusher on the one side. He never gets his head around. Sack, fumble, returned for a touchdown, and your quarterback hurts his wrist all in one motion. That I don't understand what was going on there. It kind of feels like they were just going to run the ball, and if it was a good play, they were going to then pursue a drive based on that. But I mean, is an 8-yard gain on first down deep in your own zone like really? I don't know. I'm not a big fan of running out the clock or not doing it, but like I don't know that I would have been doing any of that.
Yeah, I mean it's all situational to me. It's like how are you playing? Are you getting the ball again to start the second half? All these different things kind of factor into my how aggressive am I? I just think it's kind of as long as I've been watching football, thinking, well, why is a drive right before the half more important than any other drives? Especially if you're getting the ball back to start the next half. So I don't know. It just seemed really strange and right. It was very perplexing.
Um, and I think part of the reason the Giants defense played well is I do think that Charlie Bullen called like a fairly aggressive game plan from the beginning of the game. I'm not sure if it stayed aggressive the whole game, but some of Abdul Carter's pressures and impact plays had to do with him lining up over the center, off the ball, and just getting a little creative with all that stuff. So, yeah. Ultimately, though, when we look at this game and you see 16-13 slop fest, where 7 of the 13 points came on defense. You have 33 yards through the air and only 128 other yards on offense. I really do think that this particular result, like a loss, I think was happening no matter what. But I do think this specific result is due to coaching.
I 1000% agree.
I
1000%.
I know we waxed and waned over the offensive game plan and what you're thinking for like the first 20 minutes of this show, but just in general, like Mike Kafka to me is just not a head coach. Like this is, and what's annoying is that it almost feels like this is coaching to win a game rather than be big picture, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah,
what does a win at this point mean to go 3-12?
Well, in the big picture, it's probably bad for this franchise.
True. Well, I mean, of course,
and it's also
that's not the big picture I'm talking about, but
okay, the big picture with Mike Kafka.
I meant the big picture with Jaxson Dart's development.
Oh,
the bigger picture, yeah.
The biggest picture of this organization, it's Jaxson Dart more than whether we get the second or first pick in this draft.
Agreed.
So I mean that's number 2. Number 1 is let's not waste snaps. Let's not waste a decision to do a check down. Let's not waste him one opportunity to go to his second read. Let's not waste a chance to scan the defense before he snaps. And I just felt like we wasted an opportunity, and that's on Kafka.
Mm-hmm.
If Kafka is playing the long game and playing 4D chess about his being retained for next year, I think that all of that has to be put into account. And it's just like, I'm looking big picture. I'm not just trying to win at all costs a game in late December. I have to follow the game plan of this organization, in which we thought was priority 1, Jaxson Dart's development. And that tells me that's a little bit of a selfish thing. But again, I'm sticking with my conspiracy theory that he's coming back next year based on the moves he's made. I am not convinced that it's a guaranteed slam dunk lock. He's not coming back next year. So if
Mike Kafka?
Yeah. So if that's the case, if you want to build on my conspiracy theory, he's looking ahead to next year and doesn't want to get his quarterback hurt. That doesn't mean he's a good coach for thinking that. I'm saying that's what he might be thinking.
So that's actually interesting, because I was going to use this as evidence that he is not coming back next year, because he was not looking at this game as a chance to further develop Jaxson Dart. He was looking at it as a way of putting a win to his resume that he can then interview with and show how he beat the Minnesota Vikings.
Do you really think, like, even with Jaxson Dart's development right now in the later stages of his first season, the best chance to win this game was him to throw 13 times only?
No, I don't. But I don't think the decision was made for them to lose. Like
No, but I think if you're trying to win at all costs, you have to.
Just because I disagree doesn't mean I don't. I think that their reasoning was different. Like I think personally, I think that you have a better chance of winning by putting the ball in Jaxson Dart's hands, allowing him to kind of like get a feel for what they're doing on defense, and then in the second half, tuck it and run and whatever, because they do play a lot of man coverage and whatever, right? Like, so I mean, I disagree that this was their best chance to win, but I think their perspective is that it was their best chance to win this way because there's probably going to be less turnovers. He's not going to throw as many picks because he's not going to be trying to decipher as much what's happening post snap and getting confused. I mean, he did almost throw a couple of picks in this game. He did throw an interception at one point in this game also.
Was it a tip pass?
It
The interception?
wasn't it?
I think it was a tip pass. So I don't know if I can 100% blame
no,
him.
But he also
offense,
threw one like
offense.
directly at Van Ginkel.
Right.
So I do think it was their thought process that gave them a better chance to win, was to, if the running game is having some success, leaning on that, because like they didn't even run play action off of it, which is what's really, really weird.
Yeah. I still just have this nagging feeling Grumpy's coming back. I'm probably wrong, but it's just too many little things I'm seeing that are adding up to me like it's already been decided he's coming back.
Well, I will say this. I think that there are probably some people that think you're crazy for thinking
I know there's a lot of people. Yeah, I think there's a lot of people think I'm crazy.
But
Bobby thinks I'm crazy.
But from some of the things that we've been hearing, it's not that crazy that they want him back. I'll just say it like that. So
remember, this is a franchise that hired a coach because they were afraid that the Eagles were going to hire him. So if they're afraid that they're going to lose a guy, they've done preemptive, proactive things that may not have been the best thing in, the best interest of the club.
Speaking of the best interest of the club,
I don't know where this is going. Go ahead.
Well, I think you do. The Giants are playing the Las Vegas Raiders this coming week. And that has serious NFL draft implications. So for starters, I'll just say this on this show. I have started doing some draft prep. And by draft prep, I mean like full player profiles that I've already completed. I'm very organized this year. I have a whole it doesn't matter. Point is, I have started my draft prep, but because the Giants I don't think are in the market for a QB, I have not started my full QB analysis. That being said, I have less than 1% interest in drafting a quarterback and trading Jaxson Dart next year. Like less than 1%.
I agree. But my philosophy for this is I want that number one pick because I want options. Because somebody thinks Mendoza is the guy. That someone thinks that someone I may not think of, like a guy like Simpson, is the guy. There's teams get desperate when they need a quarterback and they see someone they think they smell roses when they really smell shit. So I want to be in that position where I hold as many cards and as many options and I'm looking for the desperate. So I agree with you. I don't think this team is looking. I don't think there's anybody out there that's so special that makes me think it's a Josh Rosen going into Murray type of situation. But I would like to be in that position where people think I might and want that draft pick at any. So
well, it's not even thinking that you might. It's just wanting to get ahead of another team. That picks after you. Whatever.
Right.
So.
And this is the 1 year anniversary this weekend of us winning that. Beating the Colts and costing us number one pick. It was Christmas weekend. I remember I was going to be in the exact same bar in Tampa I was last year watching. Although I'm going to be bolting out pretty quick to watch the Lightning, which is far more interesting to me at this point also, right now.
Just a terrible play on words.
Thank you. That was not scripted.
So I mean, this does. I totally agree with you. I think that there's a significant chance The New York Jets have a lot of assets to play around with. They desperately need a quarterback. The Justin Fields experiment, I could have told you would go bad, has officially
Hmm.
gone bad. Um, I think, like the tipping point for the Justin Fields experiment, like it was. I could have told you last year it was a bad idea, and they paid him a decent chunk of money to go there.
Hmm.
But I think the tipping point where like I think everybody was like, yeah, this just isn't gonna work, was that I guess it was London or Ireland game against like Denver.
Hmm.
That game sucked. That was so pathetic offensively from the Jets that it was just like you this game that we're talking about, you think this is bad? Like that was terrible.
I was watching it on a plane coming back from wherever it was an early morning game, and I was just like, if this plane crashed right now, I would not feel so bad.
I wouldn't be surprised if we lost European fans.
They might have started World War III against us if giving us
Yeah.
that import. Yeah,
um,
I agree with you.
but I mean,
And
they have
also,
assets to play with, but they could move up from like the fifth pick into the first spot, get a quarterback, and hand over some first round picks for next year. I mean, the Giants have holes all over the place, and I'm a big proponent of
sure.
like, don't overthink it. Don't get the best edge guy because you need an edge rusher. Get good players. If you want a good
Hmm.
team, you need a good roster. To get a good roster, you need to select good players. Everybody's overthinking shit about like, oh, you do this and then you do a free agent move. Like, just don't fill holes with the draft. Just get the best players you can.
Hmm. And get as many of those good players as you can, and
Absolutely.
don't worry that it's the Jets. I mean, nobody gives a shit because it's
Oh God, no.
this is not. There's no rivalry. It's not like the Nets don't want the Knicks to do something. No one cares. So, if you're Woody Johnson, if you're whoever the GM is of the Jets or something, make the deal. No one cares. No one's. It's not for back paid supremacy. It's about how do you make your teams better.
I'll say it like
And I
this:
think
it's a damn shame that it doesn't matter, but the reality is that it doesn't matter.
does not matter. It does matter. Does not matter one bit.
That it actually makes them an ideal team to trade with.
Hmm. Sure.
Um, so this upcoming game against the Raiders, um, is jockeying for that first overall pick. The last week of the season playing against Dallas, I don't really know how that game's going to go.
Yeah, I think if you're really worried about your position thing, you lose this week because you're right. The last game of the season is always a crapshoot. I mean, who knows what Dallas is going to be playing? Dallas is out of it, right? They've been
I
eliminated.
I think they're totally eliminated.
Okay, so that changes it a little bit. If they had already clinched up a wild card spot or even God forbid won the division, you're not going to see Dak Prescott. You're not going to see the receivers. Now that they're kind of out of it, maybe you do. Who knows? But I don't want to chance it. I don't want to be in a position where, you know, they're bringing their 1987 strike team on playing against us. So do what you can to lose this one, and then we'll worry about that next time.
Yes, Dallas is absolutely eliminated at this point mathematically.
All right,
Um,
one less thing we have to worry about in January.
so again, that's what's weird is that if they had clinched, maybe you have an easy game. The fact that they're eliminated, maybe you have an easy game. I don't know. That last week is going to be bizarre. I don't know what you're gonna. How do you feel about this Raiders game?
Well, I'm not going to miss the Lightning game to go watch it. That's for sure. So I
When
think
you
this.
walk away from this game and you get a text from me that says we screwed up, we won on a last second field goal, your reaction's going to be pissed, right?
I'll be pissed.
Yeah.
I will be because I'm again. If I'm going to spend the whole episode talking about big picture and how Jaxson Dart needs to play to get ready for the big picture, I can't turn around and be happy we won a game which is utterly meaningless against a team I could care less about to win the one game where, 365 days ago I was super pissed when we won a meaningless game and it cost us something. I don't want to be in that position too. I am enough invested in this team over 40 years and the ups and downs where I can handle a loss if it means potentially better things down the road. So
Well,
I'll be hoping for them to lose.
I mean, I can handle I can handle a loss if we're in a 2-13 season, right? Um,
Yeah.
but so two questions piggybacking off that.
Yes,
If
sir.
I told you that if I texted you as you're watching the Lightning game and like we won 42-3, Jaxson Dart threw for 530 yards. Tyrone Tracy and Devin Singletary both had like 95-yard games on the ground. Like, does that even do anything for you? Because I'm not sure that would do
Sure.
anything for me. Okay, that does do something
It,
for you.
it,
Okay.
it actually would do something for me because, you want to see results. I mean, I don't want to see a victory, but I want to see that we're moving the goalposts, further along and we're seeing development. And if we see Jaxson Dart just light it up, I don't care who it's against, that's a positive development in his development. If we're seeing that this team, you know, can execute in spite of the coaching turmoil and in spite of the injuries and all this stuff, that's good. I yeah, I'd rather see that than, okay, we're doing coaching things in the fourth quarter to try to squeak out a win, because
Right.
that to me is that's and I felt that's kind of what we did last year against the Colts. Like, we were actively coaching to try to win that
Yeah,
game.
I agree.
And if you just kick somebody's ass and you're playing well, and Dart is, because a great game by Dart also kind of calms some people down. He takes a little bit of, even though this season is over, there's still going to be some heat about, you're seeing it already. You know, you know, was Dart overrated? Is he come back to earth? All this stuff. Shut the hell up. A good game like that calms that all down. So
It's true. There was another
there
question
was another
here.
question you had
There
for me.
was.
Yeah.
Damn.
Would I be
Well,
happier if something, or
no, it had to do with the win or loss thing. Um, yeah, I don't remember. It sucks because it was a good question too. But
the
um,
best case scenario? The best case scenario would be we lose a competitive game where we look good. We just continue on with the losers lose thing.
yeah. Um, so I don't have a problem with I can't actively root for a loss. Like if I'm watching the game and the game is live, I'm gonna cheer when we do the right thing, when we score touchdowns, if we get a
Agreed.
turnover. Um, I understand the bigger picture. Oh, I remember now. Yeah. So obviously, I'm in agreement with you. Like getting that first overall pick, there's a lot of assets there. Do you care a little bit less about it? Let's just say that the Giants do win this game. Who cares how they win? I don't. Whatever happens in your mind, they win
Mhm.
this game. They lose the first overall pick, but this is the year they don't need a quarterback. Like, does that mean a little bit less? Like, if they
Yes.
were okay, because I was gonna say like if you have to if you win this game and you're picking second or third because of that, like, and like your consolation prize is that no one wants to trade down like a huge asset for that pick,
Yeah.
then you get a third overall pick. Like, this is really not that horrible. I
It also,
understand how like, it's to the nth degree when you can get like a second first round pick this year and then a first round pick next year, and how much that does for you. I'm not stupid, but if at the end of the day, like, you walk away from this season and you get the second overall pick and you get a like a goddamn good player added to your
mhm.
team, or if you can only trade down a couple of spots because there's not as much people fighting over it or whatever, I can live with all that. What I
Me
can't
too.
live with is having the first overall pick pulled away from us in a year where there's an Andrew Luck, because we won a pointless game. Not because we won
E-
some game in September, but because we won one
exactly.
in week
It, it
17.
was it was right there, and we
Mm.
freaking went. I mean, the Knicks did this about 10 years ago, where if they just lost to Atlanta, they would have the first pick in the draft. And it wasn't a LeBron James year, but
I
it
thought there
was,
was a lottery for the NBA draft.
well, we get the number of the most balls.
Oh, okay.
So, so again, it's not exactly apples to apples with the NFL, but it was like they would have had the best chance to have the number one pick. And also, the higher up you drafting, the lower you don't fall as low if you don't win the lottery.
Mhm.
So there are protections. But that the point was that they won a meaningless game at Atlanta and just being like, this is why did we win this game? It's being really stupid. But it also wasn't a year when there was like a LeBron. And I equate a LeBron with getting your franchise quarterback when
100%.
you need a franchise quarterback.
Mhm.
And I mean, even if there was an Andrew Luck this year, I would still be even more pissed, even though I don't need the quarterback necessarily because
Well, because he's still
then
worth more. There's a
right and the next
consensus quarterback that like everybody would love to have on their roster.
and that everybody could include us. That
Sure.
next regime might be like, something? I'll take Andrew Luck over Jaxson Dart. You never know.
Yeah.
I want options is all I want. And I'm not going to be bouncing my grandkid on my knee talking about that time we beat the Raiders in 2025. I'm going to tell my grandkid
You
how
don't know
pissed I
that.
was. Well, if I have grandkids, that's going to be quite amazing anyway. So
Um all right, so we know what you want to happen Sunday. Why don't you tell us what you think is going to happen Sunday?
we're going to lose.
All right.
This team has shown they can't be good teams. They can't be bad teams. They find ways to lose, whether we play good or bad. They're going to LA. They're going to Vegas and they're going to lose. I don't care how bad Vegas is.
How
They're going
can
to
they
lose.
possibly retain Joe Shane? They just lost to the Raiders. That shit
We
really is
won't.
starting to bother me. Like every
Of
time the
course.
Giants lose, it's like there's just no excuse. Like the week to week is somehow factoring into Joe Shane. Like
It's really ridiculous. It's Joe Shane's the GM when three offensive linemen may not play, and we don't have our number one wide receiver. We don't have Dexter Lawrence or we don't have Kayvon Thibodeau, rather. We don't have all these guys. That's Joe Shane's fault.
well, I mean, I
You know.
think it's just one of those things. Like what did you want him to do between week 16 and week 17 that was going to be the difference in winning? It's a GM spot. Like
He
his
can't he
job is
can't
mostly done by the beginning of the year.
he can't draft anybody. He can't make a trade. He can't sign a free agent. He can't coach. He can't put on the pads. He can't get the tee after the kickoff. Yeah, you're right. He really doesn't do much more than we do right now as far as impacting the season. I mean, I'm sure he's doing GM things to get ready for next year and working with the scouting department and crunching his numbers for the cap and all this stuff, but impacting next week versus last week, uh, someone like to tell me. I'd like to know.
Yeah, I don't understand that. I also think that we are going to lose this game. Um,
Yeah.
I think at this point the locker room is totally gone.
Mhm.
It's not Mike Kafka's fault. I just think that the locker room is gone. Guys are checked out. They've been checked out for a little while. Now the light is at the end of the tunnel, right? Like we're at
Did,
Christmas. It's the end of the you have Christmas and New Year's, and then you like literally you have like your Christmas week game, your New Year's game, and your season is over. You can finally end this just shitty
can, I,
year.
can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
Watching the game Sunday, did you feel like they were checked out?
No, I
I,
kind of
I, I
didn't.
don't think I didn't think so either.
No, I mean, there's a couple of things. Like some of the checked out is like Kayvon Thibodeau finally going to IR after being like week to
Hmm.
week for like 6 weeks. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
it's shit like that where it's just like just shut him down. Like
Mhm.
it just feels like we're on the final lap. We're
That's a big picture shutting it down.
yeah
Right.
yeah.
Or checking out.
So I'm not saying that like there's just active quitting on the field. I think the quitting is being done. The quitting the giving up is being done between Monday and Saturday, and then
Right.
on Sunday we're seeing the results of that. Like
And
I think like
I didn't
it's clearly not everybody. Like Brian Burns has been good all year, week in week out. Like
I didn't really see results on Sunday of, lack of preparation, lack of focus. I just saw a team that
isn't
doesn't
good.
know how to win. And yeah, it's poorly coached right now by a bunch of amateurs, and
Yeah,
it's just a bad team. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, and I think the checked out thing is not just the players. I think it goes all the way up. I
I
think
think if you're an assistant coach right now, you have to be thinking about your next move. Kafka
well,
might
let's
not
be
be.
serious. I mean, every single person that's a part of this, from ownership all the way down to the water boy, is looking at the last 2 weeks as like, thank God, like this season is almost over. They're all a part of it. They all partly responsible for some portion of this, you know, terrible, terrible season. Whether it's a player or the strength and conditioning coach or the field prep guy, like all of these people are part of this season, and they all
You,
can't wait for it to end. I
what
promise.
was it you and Bobby who talked earlier this week or last week about the Kafka remarks about him saying, "I've never been a part of something like this before."
Yeah,
Was that you guys?
yeah.
Yeah.
Which is like, well, that was when we were doing Breaking Big Blue with Jordan, because brings up the question. It's like, well, where the hell were you last year?
Yeah.
Like, and the year before. Like, we've been this bad for a long time. Where have you
Yeah.
been?
Right.
Um, but yeah, I mean, like Mike Kafka obviously is trying to win games and put on his best audition wherever that may be. So you know,
I think he's the one guy from the support side. Forget the players
I think
that.
Charlie Bolin is too. I think he's trying his damnedest to put on a good show. You
That
don't
I think
think?
the one guy. I think so. I think he's over his head because he's not a defensive coordinator. But I think Kafka is the one guy who might be able to control his own destiny. Because again, assistant coaches rely on who the head coach is.
Sure.
So, and I think that it's much more likely that they're going to be moving on, not for a factor themselves. I think Kafka, for whatever criteria they decide to keep him, if they want to, he controls his own destiny. So I think he's the one who gives the most shits right now.
I would agree. But all right, so we both think they're going to lose. That's going to do it for this episode of Just Giants. We will see you guys next week. I hope you all have a
Where can you find us?
yeah, iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify, and of course YouTube. I'm also on Giants Nation Show with Bobby Skinner on YouTube, like 3 times a week, doing previews, reviews, and mailbags. So you can find us there as well. And I hope that
We
you
have
guys all have a really Merry Christmas. Those you celebrate. If you celebrate Hanukkah, then that's already started. If you celebrate another holiday, then have a happy birthday. I don't know, whatever. Have a great holiday.
Yeah, man, we really appreciate it. Our numbers are going up on this show. Obviously, you know, Giants Nation is huge, and I appreciate you guys supporting Grump over there. We have a lot to be thankful for, and we all have good lives that, the fate of our football team doesn't impact our health and happiness. So, we were reminded of that this week. Yeah, we just had a big family party where it was like the Giants were the joke and the Jets too. But we're just very fortunate to be in good situations. So we want to thank all of you guys also for that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I hope that you guys all have a very safe holiday as well, and that includes New Year's, if I forget to say it next week. But we will see you guys next week, hopefully retaining that first overall pick after the Raiders game. Until then, go
Don't go
Giants.
Giants.